look, see part 1. It's important. Pan, Greek god of flocks and shepherds, worshipped widely in Greece after the 5th century BC, with sacrifices of cows, rams, milk, and honey made at his sanctuaries and temples. He lived in Arcadia in a grotto and spent his time chasing nymphs and dancing. During the hottest part of the day, he would sleep, and during the night, he caused panic terror for those walking through the forest. In some versions, he is the child of Zeus and the nymph Callisto. In others, Hermes is the father, having seduced Penelope, later married to Odysseus. In goat form, while she tended her father Icarus' flocks on Mount Taygetus. Pan was goat-like in appearance, although standing on his hind legs. He was known particularly for his sexual energy. A lot of the Illuminati guys, the cult guys, they talk about sexual energy. Having love affair with Echo and Diana, among others, as well as with boys. He instructed Apollo in prophecy and taught Daphnis how to play the syrinx and shepherd's pipe, which he himself had invented. Pan's birth story is recounted in a Homeric myth, or hymn, but he is most evidenced by artists in vase paintings and sculpture. He was particularly favored among the Egyptians and was worshipped there with the greatest solemnity as an emblem of fecundity. The name Pan in Greek means all, and later in antiquity came to personify the universe and indeed to represent the whole of paganism itself, while retaining his rustic element. In Roman times, Pan was identified with the woodland god Phanes. And of course, that goes back to Pandora. Apollo gave this woman beauty, Hermes gave her cunning and boldness, and her job was to punish man for Prometheus stealing the fire. So she's a beautiful, cunning, evil whore, who leaves hope in the box. Now I want you to pay very careful attention. Nekin is right by the border of Nubia. The house of the Hawks, the followers of Horus, who were martial arts followers of the war god, civilized society. Okay? Civilized the world, really, when you look at it. Everything else is a reaction to that. Every other temple, except for maybe Ra, which is Heliopolis, on the sun. So he comes up, he civilizes it. His enemies are in the, have people in Europe, and they have people in the Middle East. So when he's overthrown, he has to retreat south and southwest toward the heart of Africa. Isis is the god of love, like Aphrodite is the goddess of love. Osiris is holding, the flail and crook, and the Osirian priests do stick fighting arts. He's a kind of war god in a sense. He's the lord of the black. He's marshaling the night. Ra is the true father of Haru. But there's this kind of Luciferian perspective that springs up from Africa, almost certainly from black people themselves. Osiris is said, there's a mountain of Osiris, the sunrise, the mountain of Osiris in Nubia. So basically, Isis has to either go down or to the south and west. The Nubians and the Egyptians don't get along. There's a border there. They fight with each other. So in theory, she's not safe giving birth in Nubia. She can't go to the allies of her enemies in the Middle East, the followers of Set and Apep. Okay, when Set is crushed, when Horus comes up, his followers go up to Europe and the islands there, Circe and them, and they go and team up with Apeps, who's the father of the children of the desert in the Middle East. Okay, so she has to go southwest, not into Nubia, but into a new direction where the Igbo Ukwu Empire and the Igbos are. And this is the most populated place in Africa, the most likely place, the heart, the most populous place, okay, Nigeria. And Biafra are the people who are the righteous people. Tears of the Sun, the movie. The tears of the sun that created man, the tears of Ra. So Horus as the son of Ra, Horus as the son of Osiris, it leads you to Biafra, B of Ra, the heart of Africa. Goes back to the leopard. The leopard is also used by Pan in his form Bacchus and Dionysus. So let's go there to, I'm about to skip over Renunet. Here's another picture of Pan, right? Fertility god. See, they control women, fertility, So, of course, the Serapis is mentioned there as well. I guess I'll show you this briefly. Read it for yourself off the screen. So basically, Apollo, Serapis, Athena, Zeus, You know, Pan, Pandora, these are important deities. Mercury, and so on. We look for heroes. You can look for Odysseus and Achilles and so on. But they really don't define our culture. There's a bunch of fake ass bitches who pretend they're heroes. It goes back to con arts and the con whore. I didn't mark Dionysus. I gotta find it for you. Or not Dionysus. No, it's Dionysus. Excuse me, it is Dionysus. Okay. So here, this representative of Dionysus at his drunken revels, accompanied by a faithful leopard and a dancing Maenad playing a tambourine, comes from a Roman funerary relief. If you have questions, feel free to comment. I'm 100% sure about this. I'll even give you $1,000 if you can prove me wrong. This is the leopard. Here's the description. Okay, Dionysus is also compared to Pan and Bacchus, Greek equivalent of Bacchus, who is also compared to Pan, who also is, which also inevitably comes from Bes, as I've proven in the last video, and Bacchus from Hermontis. Think Hermes and Mont together. Hermontis. Okay? Butchus, Bacchus, Baccha. All right? And I'll go ahead and end after this. So here's Butchus, was the third famous deity. His cult center was at Hermonthis, where he was said to be the incarnation of the lord of the city, the warrior god Mont, who was called the strong bull. So strength, instead of strategy, speed, and physical contact, coordination, combination of skills is the direction they went. And of course, you know them by their works. Who's the most coordinated people? Who isn't, right? So regardless, they made this a big issue by going this way, lying about it, putting their face on the deities and saying it is a white deity, it is a white world, versus we're all going to mix together. And whoever embodies these characteristics the most will fall in this order, with an emphasis on the pharaoh's bloodline leading the harmony, okay, for more than one reason. You can imagine why that is, has to do with genetics and so on, and where the spirit is likely to return. It goes back to the Ba and the Ka, the spirit returning to the body, the regeneration of the body. Butchus was famed for his strength, violence, and pugnacity. He was also identified with Osiris and called the living soul of Ra and the bull of the mountain of sunrise and sunset. He was a black bull, but the color of his hair changed every hour of the day. The figure of a vulture could be seen on his back. The sirens were also women. With women's face, with vulture's body, they would sing and lure the sailors in. Okay. He was represented wearing on his head the solar disk and uraeus between two plumes, and was often smelling a lotus flower. He was of late origin, the first mention of him occurring during the reign of Nectan-Ebo, the second of the 30th dynasty, the last native pharaoh. So you see the transition. This is the last pharaoh before the foreign period, where the Greeks are in charge. Okay? He goes the Greeks, then the Romans. So the Ptolemies, Ptolemy Soter, Alexander the Great's general, starts the Ptolemaic dynasties. The other deities include the golden bull of Canopus, and the bull of Min, and so on. So here is, they say, oh, you got your facts wrong or something. You're fucking nuts. So I got to show you this shit, when they're the liars and I tell the truth. It's despicable. Imagine how much smoother this video would have went if I didn't have to show you this stuff on the screen. If I could just write down an explanation in a speech like I usually do. So now do you see the gist of it, okay? Now, on top of that, we look at what deities they chose, right? She chose this kind of scorpion-faced guy, the scorpion queen, to be the cover, right? And then on the inside, it's another woman, right? The cover, the woman. This guy chose Atlas, who went against the gods and was punished for it and had to carry the weight of the world, kind of like being a slave or something. You go against the gods, you expose their secrets, they're punished. You're punished, okay? I forgot to read about this guy who was punished for exposing the secrets of the gods, who was basically the food was a punishment, right? He couldn't eat as much as he wanted. And of course, there's all kinds of pictures of naked women and things that arouse you, and the images are part of the introduction that I read, how these images invoke certain feelings and so on, and they lead you to defining yourself in the Luciferian spirit ultimately, because you eventually show an inability. Unless you're a martial artist or something who's supposed to be in charge, you show an appalling inability to rise above the money and the sex and the sexual aspects of it, okay, and to transcend. So, again, okay, oh yeah, I'll show you two more things and we'll wrap this up. One is who, this kind of gender neutral thing. You know, the images they chose give it away. Okay, and then it leads you to an image of Pan. Pan is before that. Excuse me. Here we go. Great figures of mythology, and who do you have on the this you know, picture with the title page, I guess you call it? You have Pan again with his little helper. You know. Now, when we go to Horus, right? Notice they talk about the Scorpion King. No, the Scorpions were the enemies of Horus. And even from their European perspective, they use the example of baby Horus. So, you know, baby Horus is kind of immature hero versus a full-grown martial arts Horus, who is the natural leader of humanity. Okay? And it's a spirit. You know them by their works. Are they martial artists from the Pure Light Temple? Do they deny the Black African connection? Are they secret society bitches who talk about, you know, intellect and not actually mind, body, and soul martial arts? Do they drug people like me to cover up the truth? I mean, you know them by their works. You know? Is their father a brain surgeon who got there without being a black Mason, an African-American Mason, or an African Mason? Did he give away all his money to society? Did he invest all his money into things to heal society? You know them by their works. My family is basically the equivalent of a spiritual royal family of the world, especially if you were to compare them to people in America. Everyone's spirituality pales in comparison. They're all half-assed bitches, half-truth bitches, and liars who don't tell you this type of stuff. And part of it could very well be, it's easier for me to tell you the truth because I come from the place where all this is from. I'm part black, part white. I have no reason to fucking lie. And I'm the top martial artist. They hid from my challenge. I didn't hide from theirs. So you see the feet, Sobek and them, they're under the feet. You know, he's grasping the snakes and the scorpion. He's like, I got you under control. You know, the lion is under control. The lion, you know, because he teams up with the leopard and the hawk, Necking. And I've shown you that in the other videos where they depict leopards at the Necking. And of course, it's the city of hawks. So he has some kind of donkey or horse, you know, in his grasp. These things are in his grasp. Think about the depictions of the pharaohs having chains around the slaves, right? These are the enemies of Horus. Even in this depiction, serpents, you know, scorpions, and the reptiles, the alligators, the crocodiles under his fucking feet. Okay? Sobek's followers, Tararet, you name it, they're all fucking hippo scum. The hawk, the leopard, the natural light temple order, the sphinx with the leopard's body and a man's face with what may be elephant ears, Elephantine Island, not far from Necking, Upper Egypt, by the border of Nubia. Okay? And then versus the Greek kind of, you know, gender neutral friendly female face on a dog's body with wings. Okay? As a new, trying to redefine what it means, because the Sphinx is a symbol of wisdom. What does it mean to have wisdom? Is it martial arts sense? Or is it this kind of sissy kind of, we are professors, the doctor is the master of the myth. The doctor isn't the master, the scientist isn't the master, the poet isn't the master, the natural martial arts pharaoh, even in popular culture. Was the Scorpion King a doctor? You know, he was supposed to represent Horus uniting the land, right? Was he a doctor? Was he a poet? Was he a scientist? And even the sorcerer, man, fuck the sorcerer. Okay, that is another lie injected into the movie. But what they didn't bother to remove is the martial arts. But this is a big bull-like man, and not like the Scorpion King is actually, excuse me, not like the Hawk King, the Pharaoh, Narmer is actually depicted. Does this guy resemble more the Rock in the movie or my build? Figure it out. Who's lying and why? Is it the bull of Heliopolis? Or is it the cat of Heliopolis? They injected the bull later. And of course, Khafre is the one who put the Sphinx there. It's made in his image, and he has a hawk behind his head. Look up Khafre and the hawk, you know, one at a time.